Hello and welcome to my channel Emma's Life in Norfolk. So today I thought that I would give you a bit of an update as to how my project is going. So I start with a quick tour of the work that needs to be done. So you can see this wallpaper was added by the people who are living there. That's not something that I ever gave permission for, and unfortunately they didn't do a very good job. They've drilled in the walls. They've left sort of kind of lumps of stuff. They've left a TV bracket on the wall. The wallpaper that they've put over the top of my wallpaper is ripped, damaged, has been written on as well. Now what I always say to people is it's absolutely fine for you to decorate, and I do allow people to drill in walls, but I always say that I reserve the right for it to be returned. Now, if the new wallpaper, that bedroom wallpaper, is not to my taste, but if that had been left in good condition, I would not have made them sort of return it to how it was. There's marks where people have potentially spilt tea or coffee at the wall. The edging has been bit off by the dog quite badly, because the dog was left in this little kind of area and also left restricted in the dining room, so damaged the walls there. They'd put a child stairgate on the door to stop the dog from coming through, which is not something that they'd said to me about, drilling into the architrave. And then this wallpaper was put up by them as well. Again, not my choice, and if it was in good condition, I wouldn't have said anything. But unfortunately, it was again ripped and damaged. It's quite difficult to pick up on the light, but there are lots of marks all over the wall. So blue tack marks, stains, food marks. Underneath the fire, there are loads and loads of stains where I think that maybe the dog cage was put in front of that, and then when the dog shook his coat after being walked, I really don't know, because this was painted literally a few weeks before, and it's already filthy, absolutely filthy. And this is after the tenant said that they had cleans, but there's marks. There's not a wall without marks. Now, normal wear and tear is perfectly normal and accepted, but this is far beyond normal wear and tear, unfortunately. The stains on the ceiling are connected to a leak that was taken place. Unfortunately, it's caused quite a lot of damage to the ceiling, but that is not something that would affect the tenant's deposit. But you can see that the door, they have not even wiped the glass, not even wiped the door. The door is filthy with, I don't know, grease, dust, dirt, dog hair. I've never seen windows. No, like that. I'm not somebody who polishes my windows on a regular basis, but I can't quite believe that windows can kind of get to that sort of level. And then the surfaces and yes, the shiny doors can be tricky, but they are really, really dirty. Again, with grease, dirt, not been given like a once over. There's sellotape on lots of places. So there's sellotape on the oven. There's sellotape all over the door. They use sellotape on the wall and the paints work. They had cleaned the oven, they said, but that still needed to have a professional clean. When they moved in, the oven had been professionally cleaned, and since that time I had put a new oven in, but unfortunately hadn't taken care of it. Again, I'm not someone who regularly cleans my oven. My oven is not clean, but if I was moving out of a house that I was renting, I would ensure that I've completely cleaned it. Lots of grease marks, so I'm guessing they cooked lots of sort of greasy type foods. And the door had come off one of the cupboards, and rather than contacting us and us sorting it out, they had attempted to do it themselves and had made a dreadful job, unfortunately. The paintwork in the little toilet was all badly chipped when that had all been done brand new. The tiles really needed to be given a good clean. They had repainted the walls in the little toilet because they didn't like the colour, but unfortunately they did not use toilet or bathroom paint, so that has flaked off quite badly, so that needed to be resolved. The front section for the boiler has gone missing. They weren't able to tell me where that was, so my husband has needed to cut out a new piece to sit there. And there's lots of, again, grease marks, food marks, where they've just kind of not wiped things down. Then I show you a clip of where preparation will start. But first of all, there's a few more sort of close-ups of some of the rooms, so you can see some of the work that's being dealt with. Now, I got a number of quotes. I got 3 quotes in total. And I did end up going with the cheapest one, but as some of you know, I did have a few issues, mostly connected to the wallpapering. The wallpapering was disappointing. The person said that the wallpaper shrunk, and that was why there was gaps. But the gaps weren't that bad. It was more that the paper had been ripped. There was pencil marks. Someone had drawn pencil on it after it had been done. It was scratched and damaged quite badly. So I did mention that to him, and he didn't reply for some time. And I sort of thought, that's a bit strange. Surely if someone's raised something about your work, you would reply quickly. So then I said it to him face to face, and he said, yes, I'm going to sort that. Now, what most people would have done is they would have taken the whole wallpaper strip off. But what he's done is he's done a bit of a jigsaw puzzle. So he's cut out a section and pasted that section in. Also, painting walls, he was fine with, but could not gloss. I've not done loads of painting over the years, but my dad taught me how to gloss paint to ensure you don't get loads and loads of drips. I'd also said to him about taking off the connections for the stairgate, but he'd painted round them. So I then took them off, and rather than sanding it down, he just painted over the top. So, it's not a good finish, but certainly I would not have that sort of finish. I'd be very disappointed if it was my own house. But we have had to kind of make a few changes after the work. But the other papering, he has done a very good job of. So I don't know, maybe that was that particular paper that was a problem. So I'm then going upstairs, and I started painting in the front bedroom. So I treated all the walls. Now, I'd partly done this, and the decorator messaged me and said, as I'm now not painting this other wall, would you like me to finish what you're doing? So I said, yes, please. But I assumed that he would have used the paint that was nearby. Unfortunately, he didn't. He used another normal white paint, while I was specifically using the damp paint for that room, because it's a wall which gets very little sunlight, and people don't tend to ventilate very well. You can see the radiator in the bathroom is very, very rusty, doesn't look very nice at all. And the blind is a bit damaged, and the bath screen's damaged, so the bath screen has been taken off. Then I go on to the next floor. I'm not a lover of all this black, dark blue trim that they've put everywhere, but that was a previous owner. And we're slowly covering it up, but that's not something that we've done all at once. So the radiator being that colour and the trim being that colour is still a bit too much, isn't it? So I did choose to have that grey, the grey wall, but that needs to all be repainted as well. Even when there's sort of the cabling that's been run, they've then painted that dark. I don't know why they've done that. And then this room, again, this was perfect, the wallpaper and the walls in here. But the child that was in this room has put sellotape on the walls, blue tack on the walls, stickers on the walls, and of course, as the stickers have been taken off, a number of them have ripped. Some of the doors have been damaged, so they needed to be fixed. And then I just add some photographs. So I did go round and take photographs of everything in terms of evidence. Our deposit protection system that we have in this country is heavily biased to the tenant, in my opinion. Now, this is good in the situation where you get landlords that in the past just tried to take people's deposits for no reason. So I absolutely accept that. But for someone like myself who considers themselves to be very fair, honest, and giving allowance for things, it's not fair. However, I have learned from a previous bad experience. A previous bad experience where I was very fair to the tenant. I turned a blind eye to, for example, black hands all over the wall where the children had been allowed to climb on the back of the sofas and then do pictures with their hands, where she had spilt red wine on a carpet and then covered it up with a rug, lost different things, tiles which I'll never now be able to replace because they're of a kitchen and they don't make those tiles anymore. So I gave a lot of allowances, and then I put in a claim for a few things, and she disputed the claim, and part of the dispute they ruled in her favour because the carpet was more than 5 years old. So after that, now I document absolutely everything. So, you know, in the past, where, if not, as I said, not wear and tear, but you do have to be very, very careful now with the systems. So one of the things that I also documented was I got someone round to do me a quote for cleaning, and they quoted £90 to clean the house. Now, they said that they had cleaned, so I cannot imagine what it was like beforehand. Now, of course, I've done regular inspections, but not once a year generally. I either do once every 6 months or once every year. And I spoke to a landlord the other day that he does his rentals way under the market price, but he does inspections every month. Now, I don't know how he can get around the contract requirements, which are for people to have reasonable peace and quiet, because I don't consider it to be suitable for a landlord to be going round once a month. There was a hole in the kitchen floor. That kitchen floor I put down brand new for them a couple of years ago. And when I said to them about the hole, they just said, well, we had to get our appliances out of the kitchen, seeming to be oblivious to the fact that most people would put something down to protect the floor. So generally speaking, obviously the leak was nothing to do with them. That just shows the work that I needed to do. But all stickers and lots of marks on the wall, that is not wear and tear. Drilling and then not repairing the walls, so they actually filled in the holes but over the top of the raw plug, so the raw plugs and the holes where everything was proud. Ripping the wallpaper, that is not normal wear and tear. I think the only thing that actually did at a good level was to clean the little tiny yard. But you can see how the wallpaper has been ripped quite badly. It's been poorly put up and then it's been ripped. Children have been allowed to draw over the walls. I'm guessing it was the children and not the adults. And then I do a little video of part way through the work. So you can see where walls are starting to be prepped and ready. The TV bracket has come off the room off the wall in the front room. Now, something I thought was very strange that my decorator did, I'd priced up for all the skirting in the front room to be changed to white. Just bright white, not magnolia, not off-white, not dusty white, the 100 and different whites that B&Q sell, just white. And I thought that was very odd that he put all the wallpaper and then did the gloss afterwards, because most decorators would do the gloss skirting first and then do the wallpaper. So I found that to be a little bit odd, but that's much easier for you as well, because if you go over slightly, you're just putting the wallpaper over the top to cover it. So I found that a bit strange. I do a little close-up of part of the wall which is still damaged. Now, I paid for someone to repair the wall, and then this decorator misunderstood, and then he started doing work to repair that wall when I'd not put a price in asking him to do that. And then now, because he's fiddled about with it, I can't get the first man back to look at it. Just a bit silly. And then we've been starting painting this white. So I have opted for an expensive paint, which is for mould, to prevent mould. And it's got like anti kind of bacterial stuff in the paint. And that means that if black mould does think that it wants to make a home, you can just wipe over it. Now, I have become quite knowledgeable on black mould, and as I've said before, I do give people talk about black mould in quite a lot of detail. I think people just think, oh, give me the keys and go. But that's because I have lived in-house and never had a problem with black mould. and then someone else lives in that house, and then they contact me and say, we've got a problem with black mold. So I tried to get that discussion in a lot of detail at the beginning, and I say to them, if you dry all of your washing, your wet washing in this house, and you do not heat and you do not ventilate, I promise you will have a problem with black mold. Actually, even if you just live in the house and don't heat it sufficiently and don't open the windows, you will have a problem with black mold. Then I had one tenant that wanted to put a dehumidifier in. Well, you can't do that with solid brick walls because it extracts the moisture from outside. She thought she was all knowing, and I just had to explain to her, not only are you going to cause yourself to have a big energy bill, you just need to open the windows, just a fraction. And in the winter, when it's cold outside, you can literally open them just for a very small amount of time and close them. Because what happens is it actually becomes more expensive because there's so much moisture in the air if you don't open the windows, that when you try to heat your house, you're having to heat all the moisture in the air. Just open the windows. Is it Denmark? It's one of the countries, and Germany, I think, do it as well. Some of my followers perhaps will be able to tell me. But if you just open the window, I think they do it for 5 minutes every morning, even through the winter, then close them all the cold air comes in, so you've got that ventilation, and then heat sufficiently. So you can see there is some black mould in one of the rooms where one of the children was. Now, as I said, I did regular inspections and never did I see that, but I should think what they had was storage, bed, items completely against the wall, and you have to have ventilation. You have to have ventilation. And that means also for air to be able to circulate through the whole house. You can't close a door, say to a bedroom, and then have the window open. You've got to allow the air to circulate in the whole of the house. I did get left an awful lot of dog hair as well. And yet, as I said, they said that they'd cleaned. And dog hair and scratches and damage. So you can see from the pictures what I had to deal with. There was also lots of things missing on the inventory, like one of the shelf units had come off, a shelf unit from IKEA. Not particularly fussed about that, but I asked where that was. They didn't know. The carpet had got lots of holes in. I've got no idea how the holes had got in the carpet, but the carpet needed to be replaced. I'd already replaced the bath panel, but that was ripped. And then all the stickers, they hadn't even managed to take the stickers off the wall. So my plan was to get the quotes for decorating, get the quotes for carpets, and then make a list of the jobs that me and my husband would do. So the decorator went in, the decorator that I chose, as I've just now said, in terms of the good things and the bad things that he did. And then my husband has fixed the kitchen cupboard door, and we've nearly finished painting, but my decorator needed to fix the kitchen ceiling. And some of you will have seen the clip. He rang me in a bit of a panic saying, Emma, can you call me urgently, please? I've taken the plasterboard down. Apparently loads of brick rubble had come down at the same time. And he said a rock was floating in the air. Of course, I had no idea what he was really talking about. But I got a few builders round, and all I needed to do, really, it's not that as complicated and as scary as what that originally sort of perhaps sounded. I needed to, not cheap, but I needed to have another lintel put in. So I've had another lintel next to the original lintel. Now, the two builders that went to look at it both said, actually, it is safe and it is fine because the lintel, the other side, is actually holding everything up and is stable. But he said to be absolutely certain, you could just fit another bit in front of the existing. So he's done that and he's boxed it all in and he's really made it look very, very neat. So I'm very, very pleased. So in a minute, you'll start seeing some of the changes. So I said about how some of the prep has been done, but you'll start seeing how it is at the moment. So you can see the new wallpaper has been put in, looks much smarter and cleaner, but I do a close-up of some of the areas where it's actually, the line's not straight, it's been painted over. There's, as I said, some holes in it where it's ripped. The decorator tried, the bit that was ripped, he tried to put a bit of the the wallpaper glue to kind of smooth it down. But unfortunately, it's not, it's better than what I could do, but I'm not a decorator. And then me and my husband ripped up the carpet. Oh my goodness, the carpet stank. Oh, so dusty and so full of dog hair. I shouldn't think I had a hoover near it for quite some time. And then you can see other rooms which are starting to be decorated. White, I've got rid of the grey because I just realised with the grey that you can't patch it. Whereas if I just go for white, if there is a big mark, I can just paint that section white and you won't be able to see it in the same way. Back years ago, a lot of people use magnolia in their homes, but you have the same problem with magnolia as there's not one shade of magnolia, there's like hundreds of shades. But I do like this wallpaper, is quite expensive for what it is, but it's got a nice textured finish, so it's nice over walls that aren't perfectly smooth, because I would not now pay for these walls to be skimmed, because they've had wallpaper. It's going to be a bigger job to take all the wallpaper off. Person from the council did recognise me to have them all skimmed and not to have wallpaper. I personally felt that was poor advice. You can see the wall there is starting to be prepped. The decorator got a bit confused and got the wallpaper from the cupboard that the tenant had bought, which was not the wallpaper I'd planned to use, as that was a £1 roll from Poundlands and needed a heat gun. But he didn't realise, well, I told him, but he forgot. And you can see I've partly painted this, and my husband's done the tall bit, but needs to have 2 more coats. And the reason why we've stopped was because a lot of mess was being made from the rest of the work. The toilet, I'm going to have to get the toilets all cleaned because the toilets are filthy too. And then I show you a clip of this section with the rock and the bricks, and you can see the plumbing for the bath above your head. Now that's quite normal, but obviously the big hearthstone was a bit of a shock to somebody who doesn't quite understand anything to do with building. It was obviously cheaper back in the day to do it like that. And now you can see what my builder's done. Lovely, lovely, neat job. He's undone the plaster all the way across. He's put the lintel in both sides of the wall. I had a chat with the neighbour to ensure that they were all happy. And in the next video, I will show you how it looks when he does the next bit, which is plastering it all and skimming it. And I will do a video which shows the whole thing as it is now. So thank you for watching my video. I hope you find my project interesting, and you can see the amount of work that's involved. And I hope you watch my next video. Thank you. Bye bye.